What's up, Youthful family? Gary here, back again. This time, the thought is, have you ever wondered what it takes to be a great man or be a great woman? So with that, let's play the intro and then get in. Okay, guys, so today we're talking about great men and women. We're talking about the great men and women in the Bible. We're talking about what makes a great man or woman in the Bible. And really what we're talking about is how there aren't any great men or women in the Bible. Asterisks, quotations, whatever you want to say, because there are a couple. But for the vast majority of people in the Bible, they're not what you would call great men or women. And that's kind of a strange statement, so let's unpack that for a second. So first of all, when we start going through the Bible, right, you look at all the different people, the stories recorded, the accounts that are in it, and you first think, man, that's amazing that they were able to do that. Like, look at their level of faith. Look at how amazing they are. And it's really easy to fall into this idea of saying, look at Peter, look at, Saul. These guys are so amazing, I'm never going to be that, right? I'm never going to live up to the bar that they have set. And it's really easy to get ourselves into this kind of talking down to ourselves mentality when we look at what other people have done, or even when we look at contemporaries of ours, the Carl Lentz, the Brian Houstons, the Judah Smiths in the world. It's really easy to put yourself down and say, well, I'm just not good enough. And here's the awesome thing. If you look at the Bible, instead of seeing all of these great men and women of God, instead of seeing all these just, too good to be true people, really take a look at them. And if you look at the people in the Bible, let's go through them. You've got Adam, right? First man, arguably probably the best man to ever live. But he chose to sell the world and let sin in because of something his wife said, right? He gave it all away. You've got all of these different people. Like, it's kind of crazy. I'm going to start just rattling some off, right? Because if I stop to go into them, believe me, I'd get into the stories. They're awesome, but it would take forever. So, we've got people like Noah who got drunk and had public nudity. You've got people like Lot, the one good man from Sodom and Gomorrah, who had a less than stellar ending with, what happened with his family. You've got, Israel, right? Guy who, the Israelites are named after, and he's a guy who literally stole his brother's birthright for a bowl of soup, right? It was probably one of the best business deals of all time, selling everything for a bowl of soup, which, it's shady, but it's not technically illegal because it was voluntary and all that. But then he also dressed as his brother, put goat skin on his arm so his blind dad wouldn't know it was him and would give him his blessing instead, right? You've got, his dad, not exactly the greatest guy either, right? Gave birth, had an affair with his wife's servant and gave birth to Ishmael, who, founded a nation that literally tried to destroy his other descendants most of the time. You've got Judah, one of Israel's kids, who didn't follow tradition, ended up sleeping with his daughter-in-law, whose husband was widowed at the time, getting her pregnant, and then wanted to kill her until she, told him, no, it was you. You've got, then going into like the judges, right? You've got Samson, amazing, incredible, testimony, and yet routinely visited, a city of prostitutes, was in the end, brought to shame because of, how he would let his guard down around Delilah. You've got King David, David, right? He's one of the ones that everybody's like, David, he is just this he is King David. He's the one you look to. And yet he is a adulterer and murderer, right? Stole another man's wife, then had the guy killed. Sounds like great behavior to me. I mean, you look at Elijah, just whined and complained pretty much nonstop. You've got Jonah, who literally tried to run away when God told him to do something, and then when he went and did it anyway, he still got mad because he's like, I knew it, God. I knew it. You were going to forgive people. Why didn't you just kill everyone? All right, that doesn't sound like the greatest thing ever to me. You've got Job, who, because of fear and unbelief, opened the door for horrible things to happen to him. Right? You've got, like I said, all of these people in the Old Testament that are held up as amazing. I mean, Moses is a murderer, right? He legitimately killed the dude, hid the body, and then ran away when he thought people were going to find out. You've got Aaron, who's his brother, the first high priest, right? Who, the moment it looks like Moses has disappeared, even though it's just for a little bit, gone up to the mountain, makes golden calves, idols for the people, like instantly leads the Israelites away. I mean, yeah, they were screaming at him, and he was kind of like a coward and just let them do whatever they wanted and went along with it, but still, right? I mean, the Bible is full of all these people that when you hear about them talked most of the time, it's like there are these amazing people, but really, if you look at them, they're just broken people with an amazing God, right? Without God, their stories are nothing. Without what God was able to do with them, right? None of it was of their own capacity. What God was able to do with them is why we look to them for examples. And you might be like, Gary, that's all the Old Testament. What about the New Testament? Well, let's go into the New Testament. I mean, you've got, the Matthew, who's a tax collector, so basically a thief, right? Because at that time, tax collectors would legitimately steal extra on top of what the government required them to collect. You've got Peter, the rock. You've got this impetuous guy who cuts another person's arm off. I don't know about you, but in today's day and age, that's called assault and battery or intent, with a deadly weapon, right? I mean, he's gone for life. Okay, maybe not life, but 10 to 20 years, maybe parole if he's out on good behavior. You've got John. John's one of my favorites because John's probably the most relatable for some of us where we're not, necessarily committing murder or doing these outrageous things. But if you look at John, right, he's the one that I'd say his major thing is arrogance or, pride, perhaps. Because if you look in his account, he always refers to himself in the third person as the one whom Jesus loved, which, may be true, but still, you've got to have a deal of pride in yourself to say that, right? What about Saul? Let's look at Saul/Paul, right? Wrote most of the New Testament. Amazing, man of God for sure, but also a murderer, right? Before, his conversion, he literally participated in stoning people, would hold the cloaks of others as they stoned people. I don't know if you know much about stoning. Stoning was not pleasant. Stoning, imagine dying under a giant pile of rocks as people throw them at you, screaming abuse. That's basically stoning. Usually it would involve horrible things as like a giant rock hits you in the head and you don't quite die, but, there you are still getting hit with stones. Not cool, right? But that was Paul, that was Saul. All right, now the lights are maybe decent. We'll keep going. So you've got, that's Saul, right? I mean, we could go on, but here's the thing. Back to the idea. If you look at people in the Bible, there aren't really any great men or women in the Bible. What there are normal, plain people that have made some of the worst mistakes you can possibly make, but have an amazing, great God that can work through them. And so here's the thing you may have heard before, but it is so true. It's God's not looking for the perfect, most amazing, talented people. God is looking for the people that are available. So if you want to be a great man or a woman of God, you don't have to say, I don't have the skills, I don't have this, that, and the other thing. It doesn't matter. All you have to say is, God, use me, I'm available. Now, warning, if you do that, God's going to keep asking you to do stuff, and it's going to push you in ways that you're not comfortable with, and he's going to take you places you never imagined you could go. And before you know it, you might be in a place where people are looking at you going, that's an amazing man or woman of God. And here's the truth. Yeah, it is, but it's a normal, incredibly generic person with an amazing, incredibly unique God. So whenever you're feeling like you're not good enough, here's the truth. You're not. But you don't have to be. God is, and God in you is good enough to do anything. So it's not about how good you are. It's not about what capabilities you have. It is totally about what capabilities God has and what he can do with an open vessel. And that's what we're called to be, is vessels for him so that he can use us. So that's the thought for today. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe. We'll catch you in the next one. I'll get my lights sorted out so that hopefully doesn't happen again, and we'll talk to you later.